Good morning. We will continue with speaking about sense relations or the semantic relations which exist between words. I think we looked at four of them yesterday. We looked at synonymy, we looked at antonymy, we looked at hyponymy, and also homonymy. Today we are going to look at something called homography, right, or homographs. So what do you understand by the term homograph or homography? So homography is the type of sense relation that exists between the words with same spelling but different meaning and different pronunciation, right? So words which have the same spelling but different meaning and different pronunciations are called homographs. Now you have different examples for that. Like for example, you have the word L-E-A-D, right? L-E-A-D has got two meanings. One is lead, to guide someone, right? And the other one is lead. It's a chemical element, right? So you have the same spelling but different pronunciation and different meaning. At the same time, we have other homographs also. You have something like wind, right? W-I-N-D. W-I-N-D, it's wind and also wind, right? So wind is something that blows. Winding is winding your clock. You have M-I-N-U-T-E. It is minute and minute. So you have the same spelling but different pronunciation and different meaning to it. Another example is L-I-V-E. You have live. Live is to reside. L-I-V-E, live. Live is something that happens at the moment, something that you hear from a broadcast, something that's happening at the same time, at that moment, right? So these are all examples of homographs. So homography is the concept of having a relationship or a sense relation existing between words with the same spelling but different meanings and different pronunciations, right? Next, we pass on to something called polysemy. Now, what is polysemy? Polysemy is another type of sense relation which refers to the capacity of a lexical item to have different meanings or multiple meanings. So it refers to the existence of more than one meaning for a single word. So the word poly, it means many. Semi means senses. So a polyseme is a word or a phrase with different meanings. It has also its different but related meanings. Like for example, you have a word like crane. Now, crane is a polysemic word. Why? Because it's got three different meanings. So it's a bird, right? It's a bird with a long neck. It is a construction equipment which looks as if it has a long neck. And it's also, straining out your neck, craning to see, right? So it is a phrase with different but related meanings. So we have so many examples of polysemes. Now, you talk about arms bending at the elbow. Then you talk about Germany selling arms to Saudi Arabia. So it means weapons, right? Then you have solution. You say boil the solution with salt and sugar, right? Then you have something like, when you say the solution to the problem, right? The solution to the problem, right? Then you have something like another example that you can give is uh, another example. Let me just think about another example. Yeah, another example would be plain. Plain, P-L-A-I-N. Plain is a polysemous word because it means simple in character. It means clear, right? It also means a large area with few trees, right? So polysemy is a type of sense relation which refers to the capacity of a lexical item to have multiple meanings, right? Then we pass on to something called metonymy. Now, metonymy is the use of linked term to stand in for an object or concept. Right? So we find so many examples of metonymy used frequently in everyday speech. Now, when you say a pen is mightier than the sword, now you have two metonyms there. Pen, pen refers to the written word, and sword stands for military aggression. So that means it is something that is standing for a whole, right? So you can see a linked term standing for a concept. Now, we have so many examples of metonyms in English. Now, like for example, when you say crown, right? Crown, we say we swear loyalty to the crown. So what does crown stand for? Crown actually stands for a person who is of royal origin, or a king or a queen, right? So when you say Silicon Valley, we say Silicon Valley is constantly pushing the boundaries in innovation. Now, Silicon Valley refers to the tech industry. It is a part that is standing for a whole, right? When you talk about Hollywood, so we say it seems like people will do whatever Hollywood says is cool. Now, Hollywood refers to the film industry in America, right? Hollywood. When you say years, I am all ears. Tell me about your first meeting with the person who you are going to get married to. I am all ears. When you say I am all ears, it is ears actually refer to me. The meaning of the word ears there is for giving attention, listening. I am all ears and I'm ready to listen to you. Right? Can you give me a hand in carrying this box up the stairs? It means, can you help me? Right? When you say I couldn't understand them because they spoke in their mother tongue, tongue is actually used in place of language, right? So when you say be very careful, the top brass are coming for an audit today. What does that mean? It means high-ranking officials, brass. When you have something like yeah, the team needs some new blood if it's going to win the next season. It means new blood refers to it is used instead of new people, or you can say fresh ideas. So metonymy, these examples that I have given include both the metonym and the possible object or concepts for which it could fill in and it enhances your appreciation and understanding of metonymy. That is why we have been speaking about this, right? So then you have something called, then the next one that a sense relation that I would like to explain to you is ambiguity. Now, we always say this is ambiguous, which means which is not clear. So this is actually a semantic term, which in a general sense refers to a word or phrase which expresses more than one meaning, right? There's more than one meaning. So it's a kind of sense relation in which there are several interpretations. Several interpretations are actually possible for a word, and there is, like, you can say there is a kind of a little bit of confusion. So there are two types of ambiguity. One is lexical ambiguity and the other one is syntactic ambiguity. Now, lexical ambiguity of a word pertains to a word having more than one meaning in the language to which it belongs. Like, for example, we already spoke about this word bank, right? Now, bank can actually mean financial institution. It can mean edge of a river. It can mean rely, right? So another example of lexical ambiguity is the word can, C-A-N. Can is a model, right? Which a model auxiliary which expresses ability. Can also mean a container. So these are examples of lexical ambiguity, wherein you have there is one word has more than one meaning, right? There's more than one meaning to a particular word in a language. But this is not very difficult, lexical ambiguity. You have so many words, like you can also find out many words with lexical ambiguity. But like I told you, when we talked about when we talk about the word plain, P-L-A-N, P-L-A-I-N, that's also a word which has lexical ambiguity. When you say P-L-A-I-N, you don't know what I am meaning. When I say plain, like what do I mean? What do I, when I say crane, what do I mean? Right? So there is a lexical ambiguity. Unless I give you the context of the sentence, you won't understand what exactly I mean. So that is why we call it a word with lexical ambiguity. But we pass on to something called syntactic ambiguity or structural ambiguity. And this happens when a sentence can have two or more different meanings because of the structure of the sentence. That's why it's called syntactic. Syntax is word order. So the syntax is the word order. So because of the structure of the sentence, a sentence can have ambiguity, or a sentence can be ambiguous. Lexical ambiguity refers to words, whereas syntactic ambiguity is something that is connected with sentences. So suppose I tell you, I give you a sentence like, Mary got the bath ready for her daughter wearing a pink dress. Now look at the sentence. Mary, M-A-R-Y, Mary got the bath ready for her daughter wearing a pink dress. Now, what is the syntactic ambiguity here? Who is wearing the pink dress? Is it Mary or is it her daughter? Right? Is it Mary or is it her daughter? Now, suppose I tell you, I haven't tasted chicken cooked that way before. Now, that sentence is also ambiguous. Why? Is the chicken bad or is the chicken good? I have never tasted chicken cooked that way before. Suppose I tell you, call me a taxi, please. Now, what is the syntactic ambiguity there? Am I asking you to call me a taxi, or am I asking you to call or hail a taxi for me? So when I say call me a taxi, please, am I asking you to call me a taxi, or am I asking you to hail a taxi for me? Right? Suppose I tell you, I saw someone on the hill with a telescope. Now, that is also a sentence which has got syntactic ambiguity. Why? Because did I see someone using a telescope on the hill, or did I use a telescope to see someone on the hill? That's the question, right? So it is quite ambiguous there. Why is it ambiguous? Because the sentence is not very clear. I saw someone on the hill with a telescope. Did I use a telescope to see someone on the hill? Or did I see someone on the hill using a telescope? So we have a lot of sentences which have syntactic ambiguity. So this happens when different meanings are conveyed because of the structure of the sentence, right? I'll give you another example. Like, when we say flying planes can be dangerous. Flying planes can be dangerous. Now, why is it ambiguous? Because people fly planes. So the process of flying planes can be a dangerous thing. Other thing is planes fly. So the planes which are flying can be dangerous, right? You can hit against something, it can be dangerous. Suppose I tell you old men and women, right? Suppose I say old men and women. Now, what does it mean when I say old men and women? Do I say men who are old and women, or do I say men and women who are old? Right? So it is these sentences or these phrases are examples of syntactic ambiguity. So this concept of ambiguity is generally contrasted with vagueness. In ambiguity, what we see is specific and distinct interpretations are permitted, whereas with information that is vague, it is difficult to form any interpretation at the desired level of specificity, right? Because this always, when we talk about ambiguity, you have specific and distinct interpretations. But the information that is given is a bit vague, right? So it's very difficult to form a correct interpretation at the level that you desire, right? So when I tell you the burglar threatened the student with the knife, see, again, there are interpretations. See, it is like, I am trying to distinctly give you something, but there is an element of vagueness there. Do I mean that the burglar threatened the student with a knife in his hand, or do I mean the burglar threatened the student who had a knife in his hand? Right? So this is the kind of vagueness that is seen here. So this is what we mean by ambiguity. So two kinds of ambiguity: lexical ambiguity and also syntactic ambiguity. Then we pass on to something called tautology, right? Tautology. Now, tautology is the word for repetition. It is the repetitive use of phrases or words which have similar meanings. So, in simple words, it means expressing the same thing, a same idea, or and saying it two or more times, right? Like this word tautology is derived from the Greek word toto, which means the same, right? And logos, which means a word or an idea. Tautology, tautology. So it is, toto means same, logos means word. So occasionally we understand that tautology can help add emphasis or clarity. Now, when I tell you something like, I went to see him personally. Now, this is an example of tautology because the adverb personally, what does it do? It repeats the idea already expressed in the single word I. So, I went to see him personally is just a repetition of what you have already said, because personally does not add any new information. It can be, you can cut that off from the sentence. It will not change the meaning of the sentence, right? So what tautology means is the repetition of sentences and phrases. So you have other examples. When I say something like, we are meeting at 10 a.m., 2 hours before noon. Now, why do I need to say 2 hours before noon? Sometimes to emphasize. But actually, it goes without saying that 10 a.m. is definitely 2 hours before noon. You don't have to say that. And you've already said 10 a.m. It's a repetition of what you have already said, right? So, the second phrase, that is 2 hours before noon, does not add anything new to that sentence. When I say bad writing is writing that lacks the qualities of good writing. See, this is also not a helpful explanation, right? Bad writing is, what is bad writing? We know bad writing means something that lacks the qualities of good writing. So when you are repeating that again, it is an example of tautology. Now suppose you say, in my opinion, they are the best, better than all the other ones. When I say better than all the other ones, you know it's the best. It is actually the repetition of best. So it does not add anything, but it might give an emphasis to the sentence, right? So that is the use of tautology there. It is the repetition of words or phrases having similar meaning, and there is nothing new that is added. That is new, then there's nothing new that is added. It's just a repetition to the kind of idea that has been conveyed, maybe to show emphasis. Suppose I say, I loved reading Mahatma Gandhi's autobiography of his own life. Autobiography is something about a person's own life. So when I say own life, it is a tautology. It's an example of tautology. It is not adding anything. The rain started at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. 2 p.m. is afternoon. When I repeat it, I'm just trying to enhance it, or maybe I'm trying to put some emphasis. So other than that, there is no particular use of tautology, because tautology does not add anything new to the sentence. So that is also a sense relation, shows the relationship between words. And the final one that I would like to tell you today is collocation. So what is collocation? Collocation actually refers to a group of two or more words that usually go together. So the real the best way to think about collocation is to look up the word collocation. Now, co means to going together, right? Meaning together. Location means place. So collocations can be defined as words that are located together. So when you have a word like mistake, you say make a mistake, right? Make a mistake. Not did a mistake, make a mistake. So that is the correct word. Taking a risk. Taking a risk. When you have risk, you have to say taking a risk. Advice. You give advice. Homework. You do your homework, right? So collocations usually sound very natural to native speakers. So the more collocations you know and use, the more natural your English will sound. So, you have like when you have a word like favor, you say, do me a favor. So do me a favor always comes out. Please give me a favor, you don't say. Do me a favor. Please do the shopping. Do your best, right? So these are examples of collocations that start with do. Now, when you say, use the word have, what are the collocations that can be used with the word have? You say, did you have a bath, right? Did you have a bath? Did you have a good time? You don't say, did you take a bath? It's not correct. The collocation or the correct word that should go with bath is, did you have a bath? Did you have a drink? Right? What about break? You say, you talk about words like breaking the law, breaking a leg, breaking a promise, breaking a record. All these words come together. They are located together. Right? Now, when you talk about business English, when you say negotiation, what do you say? Negotiation, you broke off the negotiation. Keep in mind. When you say mind, keep in mind. Close a deal. These are all words that go together. Come to the point. Go bankrupt. Draw a conclusion. Bear in mind. All these are words that are collocations. You can say phrases or collocations that are related to business English. Chair a meeting, right? When a chairperson would chair a meeting, right? Launch a new product, right? Dismiss an offer. Close a deal. He closed the deal. So these are words that go together. So collocations are quite important because collocation, why are they important? Because they sound very natural to native speakers. So if you use collocations correctly, your English would sound very natural, right? And you have to always make sure that you use the collocations correctly. Use the words that usually go together, right? Come to the point. When I say come to the point, it's just like that's just how we use it. It's a phrase, come to the point. So these are some of the few examples of semantic relationships which exist between lexical items, and such semantic relationships are described based on similarity or continuity. So we looked at 10 of them. We looked at synonymy, which refers to a kind of sense relation which exists between the lexical item. That is the relationship of sameness of meaning, right? Antonymy is that the relationship of oppositeness of meaning. Hyponymy is a kind of sense relation which exists between specific and general lexical items. Remember, I told you that the elephant is the hyponym of animal, right? So you have the specific and the general. What is homonymy? Homonymy is a type of semantic relationship that exists between words which are identical in sound and spelling but different in meaning, right? Sound, spelling, rest, R-E-S-T. Rest means remainder, rest also means relax. Homophony is the semantic relation that exists between words which are identical in pronunciation but different in meaning and spelling. For example, night, K-N-I-G-H-T and N-I-G-H-T. So the pronunciation is the same, but the meaning is different, the spelling is different. Homography. What is homography? Homography is a type of sense relation that exists between words with the same spelling but different meaning, different pronunciation. For example, you have the word live, L-I-V-E, live, and L-I-V-E, live. So the pronunciation is different. Polysemy is a type of sense relation which refers to the capacity of a lexical item to have multiple meanings. For example, crane, you have so many meanings for crane. Metonymy is the use of a linked term to stand in for an object or concept, right? So a part standing for a whole. For example, you talk about hand. Now, can you give me a hand for carrying this box up the stairs? It's a part, but it stands for the meaning help, right? For help. So it's a part standing for a whole. When you talk about crown, crown is when we say I swear loyalty to the crown. Crown is actually used in place of a royal person. It refers to a king or a queen. So that is metonymy. Ambiguity is a semantic term which refers to a word or a phrase which expresses more than one meaning. So you have two kinds of ambiguity, right? So that means there are several interpretations possible for a word, for a phrase, for a sentence. You have lexical ambiguity and you also have syntactic ambiguity. An example of lexical ambiguity would be bank, right? When I say bank, you don't know what I mean unless I give you the word in a sentence or when I give you a context to that. And syntactic ambiguity, example of that would be, what is syntactic ambiguity? It is something that arises when a sentence has different meanings because of the structure, because of its syntax. For example, as I told you earlier, Mary ran a bath for her daughter wearing a pink dress. Who was wearing the pink dress? Was it Mary or was it her daughter, right? Then you have tautology. Tautology is the repetitive use of phrases or words that have similar meanings, right? So it doesn't add anything. It doesn't add anything to the sentence, but it is sometimes used for emphasis. It's used in the everyday conversation for emphasis. For example, when I say he's always making predictions about the future. Now, predictions are about the future. You don't have to say about the future. You predict about the future. Predict itself means talking about something in the future. So when you say he's always making predictions about the future, it's a repetition. It doesn't add anything to the sentence. And the last one is collocation. Collocation refers to a group of two or more words that usually go together, right? And it is good to use collocation because collocation always sounds very natural to native speakers. So if you use collocations, you sound very natural. So people will always feel that your English is very natural. So collocations are words that are located together. You have examples like make a mistake, take a risk, close a deal, draw a conclusion, chair a meeting, and all that. So these are the few semantic relationships which we have learned, and I hope these are the relationships that exist between the lexical items. Do you have any questions? If you have any questions, you can ask me now. If not, thank you very much.